Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, where I'm now joined by fellow University of North Georgia alumni, my good friend Matt Green. Matt, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, sir. It is good to be back. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I wonder if the live started just as you said, let's rage, and that's like the cold open here. I don't know if it's...
I hope it caught it.
I do too, because it could be like a good soundbite that I just keep for the openings of all these episodes here. But I'm doing okay. Another esteemed college basketball coach referred to Tennessee as a Final Four-esque team in Bill Self.
Oh my God! What are we talking about here? That's how we're gonna start the college football podcast, talking Tennessee basketball. We can't do that.
We can do it because it's an everything school, man. Like
there it
it's
is.
an everything school.
There it is. One, put it on the board. Bottoms up.
Look, man, not everyone can just can relate. Not everyone can relate, sir. But no, I'm feeling pretty good. The cold weather has hit us. Doing physical therapy, getting my talus, whatever it's called, pop back in order. Getting my foot back. I just would not wish this on my worst enemy, man. Getting back to normal.
Your talus?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
What is that? That's the bone in your foot.
No, it's not the one I broke. So it's like a small bone in your ankle that apparently when you're in a walking boot for a long period of time, it can like get out of place or get super stiff, and they have to pop it back in place to get that one normalized. So just all kinds of issues with my foot that I am very much ready to move on. But I got laser therapy. That felt great. I think I'm getting acupuncture in my foot tomorrow at PT, so we'll see how that goes. I'll report back for you. Wrapping up the last 2 weeks of school here on Rocky Top. Got more information on the graduate ceremony and all that kind of stuff. In a couple weeks, I found out. I apologize for the folks that at UT who are listening to this. If any administration officials listen to this, this is not a slight, but I saw that this thing could go from 2 to 2.5 hours, which I was like, whew. And I thought back to us at North Georgia, Matt Green. I don't think it was anywhere near 2 hours, right?
No, it was quick. But I know when Tori graduated, it was up in Dahlonega and like the new arena and everything. I graduated at Gainesville, so it was pretty small. Yeah, I feel like it couldn't have lasted more than 30 minutes, like to an hour. I'm not sure. It felt quick.
It did feel quick, and I saw 2 to 2.5 hours, and I felt like Joe Bluth in Arrested Development, where I was just like, hello, darkness, my old friend. I've made a huge mistake, because that is a long ceremony that I just was not expecting for the graduate school. I didn't think there'd be that many. That means there's gonna be a lot of speakers. I don't know, man. Can I wear my headphones? How does that work? Can I wear AirPods?
You're big time now, man. Big D1 school.
That must be what it is.
So.
Yeah, you think it's a lot smaller, and you're like, but this is still gigantic because
this is what you wanted. You wanted to be you want to be a part of the big show.
This is what happens when you.
This is the price you pay.
Exactly. Anything new on your end, sir, since Sunday?
No, man. Just laying low, man. Laying low, playing it right.
Playing it right? What are you even talking about? Laying
Semi-pro? Come on. No, nothing.
I saw it a long time ago. I have not seen
semi-pro. That's an all-timer, man.
I think I literally only saw it in theaters when it came out. I don't think I've ever seen it since.
Oh, Jackie Moon. That's a legendary character in my book.
He's up there. It was a fun movie. But Will Ferrell's most underrated for forever is still the other guys. The forgotten glorious nature of
owner / head coach / power forward / pop singing sensation. How do you beat that?
Does he sing?
Does he sing? That's how he made his fortune, man. Love Me Sexy? Come on. Oh, jeez.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
Jackie Moon, put some respect on his name. Flint Tropics. Put him on the map.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but now I'm gonna have to go back and revisit because you've got my interest peaked.
There's a great line in the Flint Michigan Mega Bowl at the end because they win 4th place in the ABA, but they don't have a big enough fan base, so the NBA they take the Spurs anyway. That's the storyline. Spoiler alert, semi-pro, but. I love. There's a line where Will Arnett's character, he's like, no man has ever done more for this city, Flint, Michigan, than Jackie Moon. And the other commentators like, with the possible exception of Henry Ford, Jackie Moon has done a lot for this city. But yeah, it's a great line. But that's one of my favorite movies ever.
I love it. Matt Green, we have some stuff to get into before our last pick'em of the regular season, and then we get into bowl time, playoff time, all that good stuff. All kinds of football, head coaching movement, like just an absolute cluster, over the last couple of days. All kinds of changes all across the board, and everyone's great. Like, that's the great thing about this time of year is like every new coach is absolutely going to kill it at this new spot. Nebraska's back, Arizona State's back, Georgia Tech went with the guy the players wanted, Trent Dilfers at UAB, Hugh Freeze at Auburn. You go up and down the list, you're like, man, optimism everywhere. Everyone's going to do great. No one's going to have a bad team anymore. And Luke Fickell at Wisconsin, like there's just so much to talk about, and we'll get into our full perspective and rundown on all the different coaching changes soon enough, sir. But coaching the college football playoff, the new rankings came out this week, and about what most people expected with the top four. Tennessee fans had expected Alabama to be in front of them. Tennessee at 7, Alabama at 6. I was surprised, Matt Graham, to see how many people who I know don't like the University of Tennessee going to bat and getting mad on behalf of the University of Tennessee. A lot of folks who have talked down and besmirched this everything school over the years has come to bat about them being behind Alabama when the case is clear. Like, there's no excuse for Alabama to be ahead of Tennessee at this point. We saw it head-to-head. Alabama has 0 big-time wins this season, and Tennessee has 2. And look, South Carolina game did happen, but we saw it head-to-head. It happened in games that they actually played. Like, those games should matter, especially when the record's the exact same. I'm not saying Tennessee should be ahead of Ohio State, but them being behind Alabama, I think, is a joke. But if you were also to tell me, like, I got them all in a room and they were like, if Hendon Hooker was healthy, we would have you in front of Alabama. But because he's not, we don't think Joe Milton in this group beats Alabama if you play that game again right now. Like, I'd be okay with it. Because if that was your rationale, if your rationale is just Joe Milton is at quarterback and Hendon Hooker is out for the year, that changes the narrative and how we vote and view Tennessee, then okay, I get it. But it still shouldn't happen.
Okay with that point?
I'm okay with if that is the reasoning, because it's just not the same. So they're still thinking. I wouldn't agree with it, but at least that would make some sense to me. I could see where you're coming from if that was your reasoning.
See, I think Tennessee fans, like you said, were how am I trying to? What was your phrasing? They were prepared for Alabama to be ranked ahead of them, but they weren't ready for it. It's like once they saw it, they're like, "This is bullshit. We beat them head to head." But it's like, yeah, I can see how they do. Like, it's hilarious. Like, once you actually saw it, but I don't know. Like, I go back and forth. Like, I do understand it. I know the NCAA tournament is always kind of taking that into account. Like, oh, their star players missing there. They would be a 1 or 2, but maybe they're more like a 3 or 4. But there's such a smaller sample size in college football. Like, Tennessee's resume is better than Alabama's, and they beat them head to head. And so you also look down the rankings. There's precedent there. Like, you have Florida State and LSU. Like, they both have 3 losses, but they're not equal losses. Like, LSU lost to obviously Florida State, but I think Tennessee's better than anybody that Florida State played. You could compare the losses, like, because that's really what it comes down to with Alabama and LSU, or Alabama and Tennessee. You're basically saying, like, yeah, the head-to-head was one thing, but, that South Carolina loss was just so bad. Like, that's why Tennessee has to be back there. So it's like LSU and Florida State, they played each other. They have the same record, and you decided Florida State's 13, LSU's 14. Oregon State, Oregon, they're both 9-3. They don't have the exact same losses on their schedule, but Oregon State beat them, and Oregon State's 15, Oregon's 16, and Oregon also has the same record as UCLA. They're both 9-3, and UCLA is right there behind them at 17. So it's like at every turn, the head-to-head matters, except for right up here at 6 and 7, where Alabama and Tennessee have the same record, but Alabama's ahead of them. I feel like if I was a Tennessee fan, you might think we're not as good, but it's not your job to project what we're going to be. It's your job to say what we've done to this point. Tennessee's played one game with their backup quarterback against a terrible team, but they played one game and they won 56-0. So it's like, how can you really say, oh, without their starter, they're not going to be any good? Heupel's an offensive genius, right? Like, Joe Milton's got a lot of talent. Potentially, whoever he plugs in could be great. So I do have a little bit of a problem because of the precedent of just every other head-to-head seems to matter throughout the poll.
And I think it should ultimately. And I wish there needs to be more transparency. Maybe that's why they want to get up to 12 anyway. A part of it is they don't have to be any transparent because it's just like most of these teams are going to get in, and we don't have to really explain it to that point. We're like the committee with March Madness. Folks get mad, and we're mad about Texas A&M getting left out this past year. And did it not matter that they ran the gauntlet in the SEC tournament and showed that they belonged and they were better than what people thought they were early on, and it still didn't matter. And they're like, what was the point of us going on that run if you were never going to let us in, right? Like, that was the thing. It's just, what is the point of playing in the tournament if we were not ever going to be a tournament team in your eyes? Like, that, you read stuff like that and you're like, well, what are we supposed to do? And it's like, the head-to-head happened and it still didn't matter. Like, that is frustrating. And I think there would be a lot more uproar if Hendon Hooker was not out for the year. I think you would see a lot of controversy and they would get a lot of pushback for this. Also,
well, I think you'd see a lot of controversy. Sorry to interrupt you. I think you'd see a lot more controversy if it mattered.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, you put Ohio State 5. So Ohio State's the only team that can really get in if there's chaos.
Are we sure?
I mean, do you think TCU? I mean, I just don't see how either of the two lost teams is ahead. Like, I can see like a scenario where TCU loses to Kansas State and they decide Ohio State is number 4, but I can't see a scenario where maybe TCU and USC both lose and one of those two lost SEC teams jumps ahead of TCU. I don't see that. Like, I would rather have Kansas State. I think Kansas State has a better. Or shoot, they have 3 losses, don't they? Yeah. See, Kansas State. If they had 2 losses, same with Oregon, or Utah. If they had 2 losses, I think there is an actual argument to be made of them jumping ahead of Tennessee or Alabama. But with 3 losses, yeah, Kansas State is out of it. But no, I would still take TCU with 1 loss. I'm not 100% sure they would, but I think they should. I mean, I think TCU. The Big 12 has been like, it's not top heavy like some of those other conferences, but it's been a solid conference throughout the year. So, and Kansas State is a top 10 team that TCU already has on their resume. Like, obviously they could lose to them in the conference championship potentially, but no, I think TCU is safe. I think there's an argument that if they lose, obviously they become the 4 seed. I guess I see the argument for Ohio State if they lose. But I don't see an argument for Alabama and Tennessee.
I think if one of USC and TCU lose, Ohio State's getting that spot. Like, if it's just one of them that lose, the team that loses is out. They are going to put Ohio State in that spot. Now it gets so interesting.
The only thing is Ohio State don't have a conference championship either.
Doesn't matter.
So playing this extra game, like, I think that's a tough sell.
They just put Alabama ahead of Tennessee, and Tennessee beat Alabama, and they have the same record.
Yeah, but TCU and Ohio State haven't played like anybody that's the same.
No, but what they can say is they're like, well, TCU struggled against every Big 12 team. Like, they struggled in every game they played just about, and they survived, and then they finally got beat by Kansas State in the Big 12 title game, and that's a 3-loss Kansas team. And they're like, do we think Ohio State would lose to a 3-loss Kansas State team? No. Like, there's a way that they can wiggle out of this, because them not being a conference champion just gives the committee a lot of freedom to be like, all right, you didn't win your conference, so we're going to put in the big brand that's has 1 loss and we know is going to attract and we know is going to sell and we know people are going to tune in for maybe the number 1 pick in next year's draft. Yeah, we're putting in the Buckeyes. Like, that's happening. I think if USC and TCU lose, I would not be surprised if both Bama and Ohio State get in.
See, I don't see them jumping. Alabama doesn't have the resume. Like Ohio State.
Hold on, what is TCU's resume? What is USC's at this point?
So, comparing first TCU and Ohio State, you have TCU's beaten. They beat Kansas when Kansas was actually still good.
But I'm saying, what's
I'm giving them
win?
that. But they beat Kansas State. They've beaten Texas. They've beaten Oklahoma State. They blasted Oklahoma. Like they went to Morgantown, West Virginia. Correct? Like that's a tough win. But Ohio State, like they beat Penn State, who's number 7. That's the best win. But I mean, Kansas State's number 9 right now, right? Number 10. Those are basically a wash in my book. And after that, who's Ohio State's best win?
Penn State.
No, after Penn State.
Notre Dame? Wait, did they play Notre Dame? Was it?
Yeah, they played Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Notre Dame, and then maybe Maryland or something. Like, I don't know.
Michigan
Ohio
State
State doesn't have the strongest resume. Wisconsin or something. You look at TCU's resume. I think it's strong enough to make an argument for TCU, but Alabama is even more so. Like, who's the best team Alabama's beaten?
Probably Ole Miss, Mississippi State, something like that.
Mississippi State is, I think, the highest ranked team because Ole Miss is unranked now.
Yeah.
And so it's like they beat Texas at home without a healthy Quinn Ewers for 3 quarters, like played a bunch of close games with teams like Ole Miss and Texas A&M. Like,
but to be fair, the A&M thing, that people throw that, it's like that was a Milrow game. That wasn't even a Bryce Young game. They really throw that one in there. I'm like,
it was,
Milrow
but it's also
the ball how many times?
A&M is awful. Also,
I get it.
No, that's fair, but they played a lot of close games this year with a lot of and lost a couple. Obviously, lost to Tennessee and lost to LSU. And LSU
by combined 4 points,
of course, but LSU isn't necessarily like the greatest looking team either right now. So it's kind of tough to really. There's a lot of flawed teams, and it's hard to know exactly how flawed the Big Ten team is versus how flawed the SEC team is. But I just don't think Alabama really has like a true. Like Kansas State's a better win on TCU's schedule than anything Alabama has.
I just come back to
and they beat Texas too, so the Texas thing kind of washes out. And I think they beat Texas in much more dominating fashion on the road as well.
So I have a question: if you played them, if we had Bama and TCU in the Sugar Bowl this weekend, what do you think the line would be?
I'm sure Bama would be favored by, probably 6 points.
So not 3.5, not like a flip the coin type deal.
I was saying less than a touchdown, though. That's what I was thinking.
I think it might be like 10.5.
But I mean, that doesn't matter. Like that's Vegas odds. Like I feel like we need to remember what we're doing in college football. That it's like there is a formula for getting.
But you still want the best games, right? Like. Nobody wants.
I think you want the best teams to be in, and I think your resume at the end of the day is the most convincing thing of how good you are. Like, yeah, we know how much NFL talent is on Alabama, but it doesn't matter. They haven't played like that. They haven't played like a top elite team, the elite of elite team, like the talent that we kind of perceive them to have. So
I'm just mad at Tennessee because I think we know who the 4 best teams are, and Bama's the 5th best team in the country. And I think the 4th best team is Tennessee when healthy with Hendon Hooker. And the 4 best are Bama, Ohio State, Michigan, and Georgia. Tennessee. Wait, Tennessee, Michigan, Ohio State, and Georgia. That was the 4 I've said it all year long.
I'm putting TCU ahead of Ohio State for sure.
I don't think so.
I mean, I can't. There's nothing you can really justify. Just Ohio State's reputation. Like,
I mean, where they
got
haven't
beat by
really,
Michigan.
That's it.
But they haven't just dominated. Like they had one of the weaker schedules they've ever had, honestly. And Notre Dame really didn't. I mean, Notre Dame's offense was just awful early on until Drew Pine took over. So and they didn't even really dominate Notre Dame. Like I feel like Ohio State's been a little underwhelming.
They're number 2
in
scoring offense this year.
No, they're obviously a good team, but it's like they just. Does it not feel like they run 40, 50, 60 points defense. Up on every garbage team they play?
I think they upset all of us so much by the way they got blasted and embarrassed by Michigan. But, I don't know. I just think people have gone way too far the other way where I'm like, look, Ohio State's clearly still one of the 4 best teams in college football.
It's about giving respect
ridiculous.
to TCU, though. Like, TCU
They're better than TCU. like Ohio State's not playing with their food against as many teams as TCU has all year long. Like TCU is like having to scrape by the Baylors of the world on the road, and get their field goal team on the road. Like,
hey, you don't just go into Waco. You don't just go into Waco and dominate. All right. The Big 12. There's some solid teams in the Big 12.
The Big 12 is down though.
I think the Big 12 is better than the Big 10 though. I mean,
I don't think so.
After the 3 best teams in the Big 10, who's after that? Illinois.
I mean, Illinois is good.
Purdue, Wisconsin, Iowa, Maryland. None of those teams scare you.
Wisconsin's had a rough year, but
the top 2, 3, 4 teams in the Big 12, top 5, 6 teams in the Big 12 are as good as all of those.
We don't even know though. That's the whole thing. Is like I'm not sure how much better TCU is than Texas, or TCU is better than Oklahoma State when they're all healthy, like, or that much better than Baylor. Like, we know they're
TCU
a lot better. The only thing we know
those.
is like bad in the Big 12 is Iowa State. Like, that was it.
TCU dominated Texas. It was like 17-10 or something. It was like a close game, but I feel like they didn't even score an offensive touchdown. They beat Kansas by a touchdown. They beat
SMU by a touchdown. They beat Oklahoma State by 3. They beat Kansas State by 10. They beat West Virginia by 10. They beat Texas Tech by 10. They beat Texas by 7. They beat Baylor by 1.
Hey, look at all those numbers next to their schedule. Do they get credit for all those ranked wins?
I'm just saying, man. They're just, like, I'm not certain TCU.
That's 5 ranked wins. How many are we counting? I know Tennessee was counting those Pittsburgh and Florida ranked wins early on in the season. How many?
We can pull up strength of schedule. Tennessee's still in the top 5 in strength of schedule this year, and strength of schedule wins. No, but like, you look at the difference with Ohio State. 52-21 Wisconsin, 49-10 Rutgers, 49-20 Michigan State, 54-10 Iowa.
I think there's a lot of bad teams in the
56-14 Indiana. 43-45. Like, they had the crap.
Was that not the worst schedule you've ever read? Just reading off. Like,
do you think Iowa is like, where do you think Iowa is in relation to Baylor this year? Where do you think Michigan State is in Baylor?
Remember that Iowa
Kansas?
game? That was like the worst display of offense in like the history of.
They beat SMU by 8 points. Their SMU equivalent is Toledo, who's in the MAC-12 title game, the MAC championship game this weekend. They beat them 77-21.
You can have your star rankings, and all your NFL projections. All right, I'm going TCU. Give me TCU every day of the week.
You just hate Ohio State. This is the Georgia fan thing. You just hate Ohio State. Like, I don't think there's a case.
It. They're 12-0,
Ohio State's not worse than TCU. Ohio State is a better team than TCU. TCU's an awesome story.
They're
just not better.
Horned frogs, keep it going. Pyro toads.
I thought they were hypnotoads.
No, pyro toads is my thing. That's what I'm going with, because they're playing with fire every week.
Yeah, that's what.
That was
do you know who doesn't play with fire every week? Really good teams. Tennessee doesn't play with fire. Georgia doesn't play with fire.
Big 12's dangerous conference, man.
Oh my God.
Went into
the SEC, I've heard, is a dangerous conference.
Went into Morgantown.
Tennessee just went and beat Vanderbilt 56-0 with their backup quarterback. You think Chandler Morris with TCU is beaten
Vanderbilt?
Kansas.
Kansas was like 5-0. Hey, whoa! Kansas was like 5-0 and had their starting quarterback still healthy.
I'm sorry, did Vanderbilt not just beat Kentucky and Florida in back-to-back weeks?
And what did that make their record? 4 and 8?
5-6. They go to a bowl if they win that. Kansas has one more win than Vandy.
So they were 5-7 coming in.
Vanderbilt would beat Kansas right now.
No, I mean, yeah, maybe right now, but I'm talking about the team TCU played in week 5. That's when they were ranked and they had their starting quarterback
by 1 touchdown.
I mean, that's fine. They won. That's the
every
name of the
week
game.
It's fine. Like, every week we're doing this with TCU where it's like they're fine.
They also beat Oklahoma by 30. You left that one out.
Oklahoma's barely a ball team.
And they blasted them. That's all I'm saying. And at that point they were ranked like top 10. So
oh my God. And we learned that they were not.
But I'm saying, don't we care about what they're ranked at the time?
You have to have. This is why point differential matters. Like, you have to just not play with fire like this week over week. It's just who you are. Like, you have to have these statement wins where you're just beating the living crap out of teams. At least the majority. Who says you have to? I mean, who has won the title or who's been a real serious playoff contender that has not done that?
Hey, you got to win, man. That's what you got to do. They're winning by 17 points a game. On average. That's what else you got to do?
I mean, we can pull up Ohio State. What is their average win total by? What's Georgia's? What's Tennessee's?
What's those Michigan's? Those teams, Michigan and Georgia are. The other ones are not 12-0 right now. So whatever TCU's doing, it's working for them. Playing complimentary football. Put some respect on the Horned Frogs' names.
Punt the Horned Frogs. Punt the Trojans. They're both frauds. Like, the best playoff possible is 1 Georgia versus 4 Tennessee. Or, well, we'd have to put Tennessee at 3 with a healthy Hendon Hooker. You get 1 Georgia, 4 Ohio State, 2 Michigan, 3 Tennessee. Like, that's the best 4. Like, that would be incredible television. I think both games would be a lot of fun.
That would have been a lot of fun. But unfortunately, everyone didn't take care of business like they needed to.
So we're going to get 2 blowouts again in the quarterfinals. Like, that's the other bad thing. We're going to get Michigan pounding either USC or TCU, and then we get Georgia pounding TCU or USC.
Such a negative Nancy, sir.
I'm sorry, which quarterfinal game has been your favorite of late? Which one are you enjoying, Matt Green?
There's been some blowouts. I thoroughly enjoyed the Orange Bowl last year, Georgia, Michigan.
I'm sure you did. I
thought that was a great first half of football.
That was terrible.
Was played. It was a lot of exciting big plays happened in that first half. So it was
oh my God.
I enjoy seeing great teams execute at an elite level, and that's what you saw from
Do you not want Ohio State? Would you rather not get Georgia Ohio State than Georgia TCU?
As a Georgia fan, I would have much rather play TCU than Ohio State.
Don't you want enjoyment?
Because TCU, I think, is a more beatable team than Ohio State.
Say it, Matt Green. Say it. You know what you want to say.
I do.
backed you into a corner. I know what you want to say here.
I would rather play TCU than Ohio State.
Why would you rather play TCU than Ohio State, Matt Green?
I think that says it all. But TCU's undefeated, so I'm giving them that leg up every day of the week.
And let me be clear: if TCU wins, they should be in. That is my point. Like, if TCU wins, I am saying if TCU loses. All of this and everything we've said for the last 10 minutes is if TCU loses. That is what I'm saying. If USC and TCU win, they should both be in. But if they lose,
it's a conversation for sure. I think it's not a conversation with Alabama. Like, I think if USC and TCU lose, I think there's no chance Alabama jumps TCU. I just don't think that's. I don't think it's right, and I don't think it'll happen.
I think it will. We'll have me on record on November 30th. If TCU and USC both lose, I think Alabama and Ohio State are both in the playoff.
It'll be interesting, especially because they've already ranked Ohio State ahead of Alabama. So if that happens, like, you kind of have to put Ohio State at 3 and Alabama at 4. But it'd be nice to see 2 Big Ten SEC matchups in the semis. Maybe they put Michigan at the 1 seed.
They're flipping Michigan to 1,000%.
Maybe they do that. But
I have a Michigan take we'll get to, because I think you might be a little surprised on where I go. Excuse me, with Michigan and Purdue. Matt Green, Conference Championship weekend. Starting on Friday. Where are we going first, sir? Where are we going first, sir?
Well, first, I need to recap the listeners.
Do we have to do that? Okay.
We do, because, this thing's getting close, sir. So you still have a small margin lead on me in the overall win-loss pick'em. 96-50 you are on the season. I am 94-52. However, against the spread, making the people money, I'm your guy for that. Mm-hmm. So I pull out to a nice lead. I think I'm safe now. A nice 7-game lead. I'm 75-66-5 on the season to your 68-73-5 against the spread. So, it's been a challenging season, and I got into a big hole early on, and I told you it was a long season, and it looks like, I don't want to say it, a little bit like your Tennessee Volunteers, stumbling down the stretch. Oh, that's all I'm saying. Chase Thomas, 3-8 against the spread, 4-7 overall last week. I didn't want to say it, but oddly similar, eerily similar. So yeah, we'll see what happens. 2-game lead going in this final week. We got 10 games to pick, and then no home dogs this week, Conference Championship week. So Zeus finishes the season A respectable 9-5 on the year with 4 straight wins to end it out. So 9-5 on the year for his home dog of the week. But yeah, you ready to get into this thing? Let's do it.
Let's do it. Matt Green, where are we going first?
So starting it off, Friday night, we got Pac-12 championship. Utah Utes, USC Trojans. Trojans are a 3-point favorite in this one. How do you see it going, sir?
Oof. This is gonna be. I'm glad this is on Friday, so I can pay more attention to this one on Friday because this is like I think the most exciting of all the conference championship games. I don't know if you agree, but I think this is the most interesting and most exciting from the weekend. I think it's the most intense because I think we can disagree on what happens with TCU if they lose. I think everyone agrees that if USC loses, they're out. The Pac-12 is not going to get an at-large bid. So I think they're playing for their playoff lives. Even if Caleb Williams wins the Heisman, all that kind of stuff, I think this is a gigantic moment for USC in this program. My question was like, does USC have to win to make the playoff? And I think they do. But I mean, it's 100%. So interesting because Williams is accounted for, so he has like 44 total touchdowns, both when you combine through the air and on the ground, in his 12 games at USC. That broke the previous school record of 41, it was by Matt Barkley in 2011, and then Cody Kessler also had 41 in 2014. He was a sneaky, great, forgotten USC quarterback, Cody Kessler was. But he's just on a hot streak right now. He is playing like a different quarterback than what he was at Utah at this point in the year. His last 6 games, Williams has 20 passing TDs, 7 rushing touchdowns in 6 games, and almost 2,500 yards in total offense. He's just playing out of this world. I also think it's weird how Utah got into this game. You mentioned it last week on the podcast where it's like this weird situation where Utah got in because Oregon's loss made it weird, and it was like a 3-way tie. Like, it was very strange how Utah got into this to begin with, and Whittingham spoke about it, and he said, quote, "That was a roller coaster," he said about the weekend to Desert News, and he said, "This is weird. I can't believe they tell coaches this during games," but apparently it did happen to Utah, where he said, quote, "When it was 31-10 for Oregon, I got an update on the sidelines in Boulder. Somebody sent me a GameCast thing on ESPN that said 99.3 chance of winning or something like that. That was a little bit of a downer." Why would you tell the coach this at this point? Like, what are we doing? Why are you telling him that Oregon's up big? So, like, what do you want him to do with that information in the middle of a game against Colorado? Like, that was just so strange.
You're saying they told him that Oregon was up big early?
Yes.
Before they blew the lead?
Yes.
Or I guess they were up 31-10. That was like third quarter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't realize that someone would be telling the head coach that.
Why would you tell him? That's so weird. But, look.
I guess that Colorado game, they had that one. They had that one in hand, so.
It's hard to beat teams twice, but you know who beat the same team twice to win the Pac-12 last year? It was the Utah Utes, Matt Green. But this is still a Utah team that lost to a bad Florida team on the road. That Cam Rising, I like Dalton Kincaid. I like when Utah is able to play their kind of game. They're down a big-time running back here. This doesn't feel the same as last year. This just, for me, I don't think they're going to be able to score enough offensively to win this one. I don't think the matchup is great for the Utes. I think it's just going to be too much to beat what Caleb Williams is doing with this offense right now. I thought travesty going down would hurt USC a lot more than it has. They just plug and play with Austin Jones. Jordan Addison is going to be healthy in this one. Their defense still stinks, but if you ever want to have a bad defense, it's against Utah. I think USC wins this and covers.
What's with the disrespect of Utah's offense?
Are you a believer?
USC's averaging 42.5 points per game. Utah's averaging 39.6. They're like, these are essentially the same. Like they're averaging 40 points a game. Like I feel like Utah's getting a little slept on in this game.
Well, here's the thing: they average 44 points per game when they win, 25 points per game when they lose, 46.7 at home, 32.2 on the road. Against FBS teams with a winning record, 31.7. Non-winning, 42.0. I'm telling you, Matt Green, there's some discrepancies in the way Utah scores.
No, without a doubt. USC, they're the sexier offense. Like, I can see it. Caleb Williams, he's an X factor. But Utah does have the number one defense in the Pac-12. Number one rush defense, number one pass defense, number one scoring defense. This was an absolute shootout last time these teams played. Over 1,000 yards of total offense. I think it was 562 to 556 in favor of Utah. I was going back and forth on this game because I'll be honest, I want to pick USC because I want a nice little neat college football playoff that there's no real controversy. Everyone that's in deserves it.
You just want to blast Lincoln Riley.
No, I mean I don't know that Georgia would blast USC. I don't want Ohio State in the playoff because I feel like same with Alabama. Like they didn't win their conference.
We don't have to relitigate it.
We don't have to go to it. Yeah, for sure. But looking at Utah, they are balanced. They have one of the better offenses. They're not just this Iowa. They just play defense and don't know how to play offense. Like they have the best defense by a good margin in the Pac-12, and they also have a solid offense. So I think I'm going to do it. This was my preseason prediction. Oh, I skimmed over that.
I think we should do it for each when we get to each game, like what our preseason was, and
That's what I'm saying. This is the game right here. My preseason prediction, not to toot my own horn here, Utah USC was my prediction, and my prediction in the preseason was the Utah Utes winning this thing. So I gotta stick with it. Utah Utes. They're gonna bust this open. So you, sir, had the Utah Utes and the UCLA Bruins in this game. Very close. And you had Utah winning this. But today you're going with the Trojans.
I am. So we disagree. Right. This is a big moment on Friday night for us in the show.
Right off the bat. So keeping it moving, our next game, we're going to the SEC Championship. Georgia LSU. Georgia is a 17.5 point favorite in this game. How do you see this one going?
This is such a waste of time. Like, I cannot believe that this is the game. I wish we could just sub out, like I said last week. I want to be able to just put Bama in this so we can just end the Bama playoff stuff. Like, just throw them in here. It'd be better. But also, Bama losing Trayshawn Holden and Trey Sanders. A lot of dudes are leaving Alabama this week. But, look, I thought it was interesting. I was going back through, Bulldog Illustrated a good piece outlining the history here, because I thought in my head where I was like, I feel like whenever Georgia goes to the SEC title game, it's against LSU. I feel like all of their SEC title games are against LSU for some reason. And they said this, quote, Georgia's back-to-back 8-0 undefeated regular season regular season marks under Kirby Smart's watch have made history since the conference split into divisions and the SEC championship game was created in 1992. Only twice before programs posted perfect 8-0 records in the regular season play. Steve Spurrier's Florida Gators in 95 and 96, and Nick Saban's Alabama Crimson Tide, who did it in 2008 and 2009. So pretty historic stuff for Kirby over the last 2 years. It's kind of getting overlooked, I think, and that's probably why he deserves to be SEC Coach of the Year this year. But this is the fifth SEC title meeting between these two schools in the last 20 years, and the record's not good. That Georgia has a losing record in this series, and they play in the SEC title game. I think they're 1-3 in their last four. Obviously, Kirby is 0-1 against LSU in SEC title games, but that was against a very, very different LSU team in 2019. The Dogs are currently tied. I don't know if you knew this, Matt Green, with the Vols with 13 SEC titles, so they can pass them with a victory on Saturday. Kirby and Brian Kelly have dueled really well in the past when Brian Kelly was at Notre Dame, so they've had only classics when the two have played to this point, which is something to consider when you think, like, oh, could this be a blowout?
Kirby is 2-0, though.
He's 2-0, but both were classics, and both came down to the wire. But what I come back to, man, Stetson is 25-1 in his last 26 starts. I don't see it. Like, if Georgia goes down, and look, I'm still picking the field against Georgia in the playoff because it's so dang hard to go back to back in this sport, especially with an expanded playoff.
Still picking the field? There's only like 4 teams left.
I'm still picking the field. I think it's too hard. I don't feel great about it. Like, it's not like I feel great about any of the field that's left, but I'm still taking the field at this point. But Matt Green, I think Georgia wins. But what was I think LSU covers. I think this is a cover game for LSU, and I think this is actually pretty close late. So give me the Dogs to win, but LSU to cover.
All right, LSU, put it on the board.
Perkins is going to be a problem. They're going to blitz a lot. They're going to get after Stetson. This might go a little bit like the Mizzou game.
Yeah, LSU is definitely a better team than they played against than the one that played against Texas A&M last week. Mm-hmm. But with Jaden Daniels being a little dinged up now, I feel like that's definitely not good because his legs were just so much a part about what's going to potentially beat Georgia. I look at this offense and just all the teams that they've played close games with Arkansas and losing to Texas A&M and even just playing a shootout with a team like Florida. Like I just don't think they are going to have what it takes to really like consistently move the ball on Georgia. Like I think it's going to take Jaden Daniels really just playing out of his mind, having like his Heisman type game. And like Jaden Daniels is good, but I think these types of quarterbacks and he's going to be one of the fastest quarterbacks I think Georgia's ever seen under Kirby Smart. But these quarterbacks that are, I kind of label him as like a dual threat that's almost run first. Like I feel like the running is more dangerous than his passing, even though he obviously can throw the ball and make some plays down the field. When Georgia faces these kind of quarterbacks under Kirby Smart, I feel like they have a lot of success. There's just a lot of team speed. They tackle well in space. They don't tend to necessarily have problems with these runners as far as letting them, break out with their legs specifically. So I think Jaden Daniels is going to have to beat Georgia with his arm, and if he's going to have to beat Georgia with his arm, he's not better than Hendon Hooker, and this LSU offense is not better than Tennessee. And I think that's what I just have to go back to of. Especially what Georgia's offense has been in the bigger games this year with maybe the Florida game or the Tennessee and Oregon early on, South Carolina early on. Like, I feel like you've seen really what Georgia's offense is. It feels like down the stretch, some of these games, like they've kind of known they have a big enough lead and they kind of sit on it this second half. Or even Georgia Tech got off to a slow start. It felt like kind of a snoozer of a game, like your point of it's so hard to go back to back. I think the hardest part of going back to back is getting to conference championship weekend unscathed. I think once you get to conference championship weekend, these are all big games now. No one has a problem getting up for big games. It's the at Missouri game in the middle of the season where you think you're going to stomp them and their campus is electric because they have a chance to knock off the number one team in the country, and maybe you're just not ready for that. Like we've seen these teams kind of inexplicably get upset all the time, and teams have out-of-body experiences like Texas A&M versus Alabama last year. So I think the hardest part is getting to this point and still being undefeated. The fact that Georgia's gotten here, I think you're going to see them. I don't see LSU scoring more than 17 points in this game. I think I'm not sure what Georgia hangs. If it's 34-17, I guess that would be just under covering. So let me go 37-17, and I think Georgia wins and covers.
Interesting. We disagree on the spread, but not the winner. Where are we going next, Matt Green?
Keeping it moving to probably the most compelling conference championship. Although you said USC Utah is going to be a good one. TCU Kansas State. I think there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this one. And these two teams, this is a rematch. How do you see this one going?
A lot of rematches in these title games, which makes it a little interesting, Matt Green. Kansas State, I thought this was an interesting factoid that I saw in one of the papers locally in Kansas. I think it was the Wichita, I want to say. But Either way, Kansas State has not played an 11 a.m. game. So it made me think. I'm like, I feel like the Big 12 title game was always at night before this. I don't know why. I don't know if you remember, but it feels like majority in our childhood and growing up, the Big 12 title game was at night. But maybe it's now consistently
seems
day
right.
one. Huh?
That seems right.
Yeah, and it's not. So it's 11 a.m. And Kansas State has not played an 11 a.m. kick in 2 months. So the number 10 Wildcats have literally not played a game outside of 11 a.m. outside of their home stadium all season long. 4 of their 5 road games were at night this season. So it's the exact opposite of basically the Georgia Bulldogs this year. But Chris Kleiman said, quote, honestly, we prefer getting up and going rather than the night games just sitting around. Or maybe that wasn't Kleiman. It was another player who said that. But he said, quote, it's hard to relax when you've got a night game, so we'd rather get up and get going to start the day. And this is something that I think with the Tennessee-South Carolina game, not making excuses, but I think if they play that game at noon, I think Tennessee wins that football game. I think that's a nooner. Like the night games.
There's nothing you can say, though. They get like 63 points.
I'm saying my heart of hearts, the day game stuff matters. Like Georgia getting up and blow. Like Tennessee, I think part of the reason on the flip side, Tennessee benefited from playing LSU at 11 a.m. Baton Rouge time. Like before that place was rocking and everything else. Like Tennessee playing LSU not at night in Death Valley and playing that game at noon. East Coast time was a huge benefit. They talked about it. Like that was a nice thing for them to be able to get that game at daytime. So all I'm saying is
Williams-Brice was definitely rocking at night.
Right. Like I think it's just different. Night games, you have all day to think about it, and they're just different feels. Difference now between K-State and TCU last time is that Will Howard is for sure the guy now. And that was not the case before. Adrian Martinez, I saw, might be healthy enough to play, so they might have some Wildcat packages for him. But here's the thing that I keep coming back to.
Leave him on the bench, with all due respect.
I think he's going to play. I think he's going to get some snaps. This is not an L. Roberson or Colin Klein year. Those years when K-State wins the Big 12, they're 11-1. They finished the year like 11-5. They don't have 3 losses. You go back through them. They were special seasons where it felt like they were the best team in the Big 12 all year long.
No, the year they beat Oklahoma, when Oklahoma was number 1 and still got the national championship after losing. Like
Kansas State was what?
They blasted them. Like
I'm
what, 2003?
Yes.
No,
Roberson.
I wouldn't have thought they were 11-1. I would have thought they were probably a 2 or 3 loss team, like ranked like 18th or something going into that.
They did have 3 losses.
Okay.
They did have 3. Okay. I thought they okay. They did lose to okay. The Marshall upset. Because I saw Texas and Oklahoma State. I forgot. So they lost 3 straight, and they won every game up until the Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State, where they only lost by 7. But they finished 11-4 that year.
Okay.
Colin Klein was special. L. Roberson was special. Will Howard's good. We've seen the bad of Will Howard. We saw it last year. Just like we've seen.
What are we seeing the bad of Will Howard?
There's a lot of bad Will Howard tape out there, but he's figured it out. Like Will Howard has crossed over. Kind of like Max Duggan. Max Duggan was not good before. He was not even supposed to be the guy at TCU this year. It's supposed to be Chandler Morris, and he's played great. The 2 guys who it was not supposed to be their team. It was supposed to be Adrian Martinez and Chandler Morris this year.
Hey, it wasn't supposed to be Stetson Bennett last year.
That's true.
You never know what could happen.
I think TCU is just, they finish it. They've got one more, the team of destiny. I think it's weird that Garrett Riley, I don't know if he has been interviewing, but you never want your OC to be looking elsewhere during game week, and we'll see what happens. Lincoln's brother looks like he might get another job after the year. We'll see what happens there. Also news this week, I learned that Lincoln Riley had a brother who was the OC of TCU. I don't know if you realize.
Oh, you haven't seen this guy on the sideline? They show him a lot because I'm like, wait, is that Lincoln Riley? You have to double take a little bit. He didn't look exactly like him, but
it's dumb. I just knew it was Garrett Riley, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together. Like I just knew the name, and it was just like Garrett Riley is the OC. I never, because I'm an idiot. But either way,
it's not Jake Fromm Little League World Series level, but it's. I feel like it's brought up on a lot of broadcasts. Maybe I'm watching the Horned Frogs more than you. I'm a fan. You're just a hater over here.
Oh my God, but yours is bad faith because you just want to blast the Horned Frogs and want nothing to do with Ohio State in a 1-4 matchup. That's all that is.
No, it's not. It's more than that. They're undefeated. I respect what they've done, but looking at this game.
Well, my pick before you go.
Oh, sorry.
Before just so you don't say that I was cheating after the fact here. Right. I am going TCU to win and cover. I think we get the 4 seamless teams in the Final Four, but will they all be undefeated? Or 3 be undefeated and 1 with 1 loss? Or will there be more than 1 loss teams? 1 loss teams. This is tough to say. Anyway, continue.
We shall see. But like you were saying with Will Howard, you kind of were alluding to it. With Will Howard, Kansas State is 4-0, winning those games by an average of 43-13. They're absolutely dominating teams since Will Howard has taken over. The first game he took over was this TCU game. That's the only game he's really played the majority of the snaps that they've lost, and he's really thrown into the fire that day. I feel like, and they were even in control of that game. It was 28-17 at half. I think Kansas State matches up really well with TCU, and I feel like I want to pick Kansas State to pull the upset, but the Pyro Toads, they got something. The Horned Frogs feel like the team of destiny, so I'm going to keep it going, and 13-0. Give me TCU to pull it out and barely cover.
Okay, there you go. We agree there, Matt Green. Where are we going next
on that one? Oh, and to
before the year
on the SEC, we both had Georgia, Alabama preseason. With Alabama
pretty close.
With Alabama winning the conference, and then the Big 12, I had Oklahoma beating Texas in the Big 12, which is just cold take. And you had Texas, but you did have them beating the Kansas State Wildcats, so you did get Kansas State in there.
And Texas was 1 game away from making the Big 12 title game.
Yeah, so that was a much better pick. And I wish I'd gone Baylor, but that still would have been a miss. It would have been
even worse. You're going worse. It would
have been a better miss than Oklahoma, because Baylor they were more in contention than Oklahoma was.
Okay.
But a loss is a loss, though. But keeping it moving to the Big Ten, Michigan Wolverines. Who are they playing? Purdue Boilermakers. I blanked on it for a second. Michigan's a 16.5-point favorite. How do you see this one going, sir?
It's time, Matt Green. The upset special.
Oh, my goodness. Are you kidding me right now?
Here we go. Jeff Brom. Jeff Brom is 3-0 versus top 3 ranked teams in his career, sir. That man loves a good top 3 upset. It's what he lives for. If it's Ohio State and Michigan with his pretty good to average team, neutral site, dome stadium with that offense, Mr. Jones, they've got a running game now. Michigan feeling great. Blake Corum banged up, gave it their all the week prior. Just know that they're in the playoff no matter what happens here. Purdue, if they win, they're in the Rose Bowl.
They're going to have the home crowd in Lucas Oil?
They are going to have the home crowd in Lucas Oil. It's basically a home game for them.
I think
this is the worst case scenario for Michigan. Like, they would have stomped Iowa because Iowa played with their food and lost to Nebraska on the final week of the season. That's a disaster for the Michigan Wolverines. That's right. Michigan is still 91st in passer rating. Like, we're all in on, like, J.J. McCarthy he turned the corner. No, he didn't. We still have weeks of evidence that J.J. McCarthy is not good. Like, we're not there yet. Like, I don't know why we've done this complete 180. C.J. Stroud is good. Stetson Bennett's good. Hendon Hooker's good. Aiden O'Connell, we've seen it weeks at a time. Like, Aiden O'Connell in this Jeff Brom offense is good. They have a running game now. They have Mr. Devin Mockabee, who's going to set the Purdue single-season freshman record for rushing yards. They are 19th in the country in defensive third down percentage. Michigan is going to get in bad third down plays because Purdue is going to put it on them, Matt Green. They're not this is just all kinds of upset special for me here. I think Michigan goes down outright. This is my upset pick of the weekend. I think Purdue wins. Go Boilermakers.
Oh my goodness! I was
Make it 2 Boilermakers.
That guy over there, Seabass. Wow, that was bold. I was not expecting that at all. Were you really just trying to give this thing away, huh? Looking at going back to our preseason predictions, we both had Ohio State winning the conference. I had Ohio State over Wisconsin. You had Ohio State over Minnesota. So, neither of us, a little offers here in the Big Ten. My take, and it's interesting that I thought I was almost going to be bold because I'm going Purdue against the spread because the 2 best pass offenses that Michigan's played this year, Maryland and Ohio State, obviously they pulled away from Ohio State, but I'm not going to act like it was just a blowout win. I mean, that's a 7-point game with 8-9 minutes left in the ball game. It was still a close game for the most part until Michigan just started busting up big runs on them. Those were by far the 2 teams that gave them the most trouble, and Maryland, both of these teams are the top 2 passing offenses in the Big Ten. Right just behind them should say just ahead of Maryland is Purdue. So this is going to be one of the best passing offenses that Michigan has faced all year. I don't think they necessarily have maybe they have a competent running game. I still think it's not necessarily going to be enough to challenge Michigan, I don't think, but the passing game is what's going to kind of neutralize things. But I see Michigan definitely winning this one, but I think 16.5 is a little high. I think maybe a 28-14 kind of 2 touchdown win or something like that. But give me Michigan a win, but Purdue against the spread. But you're going Purdue outright. Upset special. I love it.
That's what's happening.
Keeping it moving. What do we have left? Is it the ACC?
We got the ACC here.
Clemson and North Carolina. Clemson is coming into this one as a 7.5-point favorite. How do you see this one going?
Another one that I wanted to be bold. I feel like you might go bold with your guy, Drake May. You have a man crush on Drake May, like our wives have man crushes on Sam Hartman. And
Just you.
No, many are saying it's both our wives. And my thing about this game is, can Clemson score enough? This offense is just horrible. And we don't have a lot of track record between the Jeff Lebby, Dabo Swinney matchup here. UNC Clemson, I feel like never play, even though they're in the ACC.
Gave us an entertaining ACC title game a few years back. What was that 2015, 2016?
7 years ago. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
it was a long
while
time ago. Clemson's won 4 straight in the series. Both are just trending horribly down the stretch here, which is what you want in an ACC title game at this point. It's both teams just really going down a bender. Last year was exciting. It was 2 new teams, Pitt, Wake, 2 top 10 offenses. Everything's fun. Kenny Pickett did a fake slide touchdown in that game that turned it into a ban the next year. You can't do that anymore. I don't think we're going to get any of this in this game.
The next week it turned into a ban.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think we're getting any of this in this game. From the AP, Brown, too, wants his players to embrace their chance at history. The Tar Heels' last ACC crown came in 1980, Matt Green, rather than their 2-game losing streak. If you'd ask a North Carolina fan or me in August, would you take 9 wins and a chance to play Clemson for the conference championship? We'd be so excited, said Brown, who won the 2005 national title at Texas. UNC doesn't win ACC titles in football. It's not what they do. It's not going to happen here. I think this is going to be ugly. I think this is going to be horrific to watch. I think both teams are going to be an inept mess. We're going to not enjoy any second of it. DJ Uiagalelei is not going to complete anything fun downfield. Drake May is going to be running for his life with with Murphy and Breezy and company up front. This is going to be a mess. And I think it's going to be 13-10 Clemson. So give me the Tigers, but oh my God, that's where I'm at.
So hammering the under over here. So 13-10, and you're saying they're not going to cover.
I don't think they're going to cover.
Okay. So Clemson to win, UNC to cover. So you said you wanted to pick it. You wanted to be bold, but you couldn't take it. You couldn't be bold enough. Fortune favors the brave, sir. I just want you to know that.
Are you going to do it?
I am going to do it.
Oh, wow.
Last time Clemson allowed 20 points per game in consecutive seasons was 2012 and 2013. They have done that now in 2021 and 2022. Those are pre-playoff Clemson. Like that's average to good program Clemson back in 2012, 2013. No disrespect to Taj Boyd. You were getting ACC title appearances and stuff, but Clemson wasn't on that level yet.
All-time passing leader, I think, still.
Yeah, there you go. Drake May, I do not see this game being some 13-10. North Carolina who have they given up 13 points to all season? North Carolina is going to get absolutely torched on the ground. Like,
what was the Georgia Tech score last week?
Well, they lose 21-17 or something?
Yeah, it was pretty close. It was low scoring. I didn't know if it was that. It was 21-17, yeah.
21-17. But I think North Carolina gets in shootouts. They're gonna give up some points in this game, and I think a lot of it's gonna be on the ground. But they're not gonna stop Drake May in this offense. Clemson is not. Like, this Clemson defense is just not what they usually are. They're not North Carolina giving up 30 a game, but they're giving up 20 points a game. Like, this isn't just some stout, Clemson defense we're used to seeing. Like, I mean, we just saw what South Carolina did to them, and North Carolina's been much more consistent this season than the Gamecocks have been. Even the last 2 weeks, South Carolina's been the greatest offense on earth, just about. But I see this turning into a shootout, and like you said, I have zero faith in DJ Uyunglele if this turns into a shootout. So give me the North Carolina Tar Heels to win. Is this one in Charlotte?
It is in Charlotte.
Hometown. They got that hometown crowd in North Carolina.
I think there are going to be more Clemson fans there.
Probably. But North Carolina, give me the Tar Heels to win this one.
Wow. Which is your favorite North Carolina big win? Is it Miami by 3? Is it Georgia State by 7? Is it App State, who didn't make a bowl this year, by 2?
I would say, first of all, it's definitely App State. That was like the greatest game ever. But yeah, North Carolina, they put a
App
big
State
number.
beat Texas A&M on the road and didn't make a bowl.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. The Georgia State one too. That was a big time win for North Carolina.
They beat Duke by 3. They beat Virginia, who was horrific this year, by 3.
But they're scoring points in all those games.
They lost to a terrible Georgia Tech team at home.
Hey, Brent Key, man.
They lost again at home to a backup. I think it was third string when NC State.
Yeah, but NC State's quarterback man. If you're at NC State and you can play, you're going to the NFL.
It's true.
But no, North Carolina's limping in. They are not. This is no like celebrating North Carolina because they're a great team. I've not been impressed with Clemson for a while, and I think South Carolina finally exposed them. I mean, they've had a pretty weak schedule for this season, and I think they weren't really exposed. But to see Notre Dame hang a big number on them and see South Carolina hang a big number, I think the Tar Heels are going to do the same. Oh, also preseason.
Can I give you a difference between Clemson and North Carolina?
What's that?
Clemson beat Georgia Tech 41-10, and Clemson beat NC State 30.
Hey, that's Jeff Collins' Georgia Tech, man. They're a completely different team with Brent Key. But preseason prediction, I had the Wolfpack. The Wolfpack over the Hurricanes in this game. Absolute miss. And you had the Clemson Tigers beating the Pitt Panthers, which is another bad call. But at least you had Clemson.
What did Pitt finish? Like third?
Pitt won their division?
I don't know. Pitt finished strong. Hold on. What did Pitt finish?
Pitt couldn't have won more than 7 games.
They went 8-4.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They haven't lost. Pitt hasn't lost since UNC on October 29th, sir. They blew out Miami.
So there you go. UNC's good win. It's Pitt right there.
No, that's Tennessee's good win is Pitt. Like, let's keep it. And also, if Clemson wins,
so it's not a good win for North Carolina. It's just a good win for Tennessee.
You're getting it. And if Clemson wins, I think that clinches most likely Tennessee versus Clemson in the Orange Bowl. It might be all orange all the time if Clemson takes care of business on Saturday.
I'm here for it.
It'd be a fun bowl game.
Yeah, it would be a good one. But that's all we got for the group of 5. So
no, the Power 5.
Or the Power 5, I should say. You are correct, sir. On to the group of 5 on Friday night.
Let's speed round these. One thing that we have to take on this.
We got North Texas at UT San Antonio in the Alamo Dome. Mm-hmm. How do you see this one going? Oh, also, Roadrunners, 8.5-point favorite in this one.
Matt Green, get ready. You know what one of my favorite movies when I was a kid was Matt Green?
I don't know. Space Jam?
Hated Space Jam. Terrible movie.
Hated Space Jam.
Terrible movie. Do you know what was good? The Mean Green. And by Mean Green, I mean the Big Green. I think it was the Big Mean Green.
Oh, man, you really butchered that. It was definitely the Big Green.
Yeah.
That was a classic.
It was. I was going to try
butchered your joke, but yeah, that was a great movie.
In my head, I thought it was the Big Mean Green, and then I realized as I looked at it, I was like, nope, it's just the Big Green. I thought it was the Big Mean Green. But either way, a cinematic classic. And I have not been able to talk about the North Texas Mean Green, who lost their AD to West Virginia this week. But look, Seth Luttrell has been doing the Lord's work over there at North Texas for a while. They have just so many different backs that they can count on. UTSA, undefeated in the CUSA this season. I don't know. When they played earlier this year, another rematch, it was 6-3 at halftime. This was a close game. I don't believe in UTSA's run defense. 68th in the country. They're averaging 150 yards per game on average. I don't know if you're going to be able to stop this group for North Texas on the ground. In the Alamo, give me the North Texas Mean Green in an upset, Matt Green.
Wow. I know what you're thinking. My name being Matt Green and all, I kind of have to go with the Mean Green. But I don't see it. Like you said, this was a classic when they played earlier in the year. Just a ridiculous finish, back and forth in the final couple minutes.
They had like 40 points, 30 points in the final quarter.
Yeah, it was UTSA took the lead with 2.5 minutes left. North Texas took it back with 1.5 minutes. UTSA threw a touchdown with 15 seconds left. Like it was a wild one in the Alamo Dome, as you said. I just think UTSA is the better team. I think these are two high-powered offenses, but I see UTSA winning this one at home too. I can't pick against them. So it's tough to beat a team twice. But give me the Roadrunners to win and cover.
Interesting. Okay. So how many are we at?
Close. 3? Cover. I don't know if I just said that. I said it out loud. Is that legally binding?
No, you can switch. It's not locked in.
It was such a close game last time. Yeah, give me the Roadrunners to win and cover. I'll put it on the board.
All right, where are we going next?
Next, we are going to Ohio and Toledo. This is the only neutral-sided game of the group of 5 slate. This one's in Detroit, and coming into this one, Toledo is a 1.5-point favorite in this one. How do you see this game going?
Jason Kendall, I think, has to win this to save his job, I was reading. It's a big one for him, who's been rumored for years and just has not gone well following Matt Campbell here at Toledo. But Toledo has just always had the best rosters in the MAC. They should be the favorite every year. Ohio, obviously moving on from Frank Solich, who retired, and this was his handpicked successor, who's been great. Ohio's won 7 straight coming into this game. However, Toledo, when you go back in the history, Toledo wins the MAC a couple times a decade. Like, Toledo wins the MAC. It's part of the deal. You know who doesn't win the MAC? The Ohio Bobcats. They have literally never won the MAC in their existence. Been to the conference title game a couple times. Never won the MAC. I am betting on history and the Toledo talented Rockets to win this one. Give me the Rockets to win outright, sir.
Disrespecting the boys from Athens, Ohio. Been the much more impressive team this year. 9-3 on the year. Toledo just backing into the conference title game, losing the final 2 games to Bowling Green and Western Michigan. Still find themselves in the conference title game. No, you just gave all the reasons for why this game means so much to the Ohio Bobcats.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to make the trek from Athens, Ohio to Detroit, Michigan. They are going to get that first MAC title. Give me the Bobcats to get it done, sir.
Wow.
So
You're doing it.
I can't believe it. And I'm not even changing my picks because of you either. You've gone a little crazy this week. You've surprised me with some of your picks.
I'm sorry. Did one of us pick UNC to win their first ACC since 1980?
You picked Purdue to beat Michigan.
That's it. That's a layup, Matt Green. That's a layup.
Oh my god.
Jeff Brom against top 3 gets a top 3 team when he's unranked. Now, bucket.
Roadrunner and the Roadrunners don't lose in the Alamo Dome. You're making a big mistake. Big mistake. Huge.
Where are we going next?
Keeping
Matt
it
Green?
moving to the Sun Belt, the Fun Belt, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
Coastal Carolina at Troy. Trojans are a 10-point favorite in this one at home. How do you see this one going?
Oof. Okay. So this is fun, Matt Green. This is another Trojans Conference Championship matchup. They have won 9 straight coming into this one. A lot of teams on streaks coming into this one. They have one of the top-ranked defenses in S&P+. This is a home game for them. Grayson McCall for Coastal has been out with a foot injury for the majority of this season, unfortunately. He is still uncertain to play. We'll see if he does. 2 losses for the Chanticleers coming into this one. You know I'm a big Jamie Chadwell guy and a Coastal guy. He's interviewed a couple different jobs. Might be looking elsewhere. Head on it, just not all the way there on this Coastal team. They don't feel as great as they've been in years past. This Troy defense is really, really good. Home game for them. I think they finish strong and win the Sun Belt. Give me Troy to win and cover, sir.
I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with you on that.
Oh, interesting.
Sir. Yeah, Troy's been pretty dominant this year. 8th in the country in points allowed. Just giving up just over 16 points a game this season. Yeah, and at home, I think Troy gets it done. So yeah, we will agree on that one. Troy Trojans.
Okay.
Let's see. Keeping it moving. We got the ranked matchup of the group of 5 slate. We got UCF and Tulane. These teams played just a few weeks ago. UCF won at Tulane that time. This one's going to be in New Orleans as well. UCF won that one 38-31. How do you see this one going, sir?
Another rematch. Tulane thought they were going to lose their coach to Georgia Tech, and it didn't happen for still unspecified reasons as to why Willie Fritz is not the next head coach of the Georgia Tech.
Have you heard the speculation? Have you heard the speculation?
Money was put
I've heard the speculation is that he wanted to stay on and coach in this game. And Georgia Tech, I guess, didn't want that, or maybe that's what they're saying. I don't know, but that seems pretty short-sighted if that was ultimately what kept it from doing it. But yeah, I don't know how much truth there is to that, but that's one thing I've heard.
This goes back to the scheduling for college football. You kind of have to. It's like, what are you supposed to, what is this madness where they have to pick and choose between staying on for this team that they've gone to bat for and spent the whole year preparing and getting ready for this game? And it's like, well, the portal opens on the 5th and we got to get our ducks in a row. So you got to go. It's ridiculous.
You're just forcing every head coach to have some sort of PR black mark on his record of oh yeah, well what about when you just bounced on your team when they were going to the Sugar Bowl that one year? It's
right.
They got to do something about this calendar. But yeah, in terms of this game, how do you see this one going?
I went back and forth. Plumlee in their last matchup ran all over Tulane. He's been banged up though of late. 38-31 victory for the Black Knights last time. You were on Tulane. You actually picked UCF in the first. You picked UCF I think, the first time when they won.
Are they the Golden Knights or the Black Knights?
Or Gold Knights, excuse me.
Or are they just the Knights?
Well, the Black Knights are the Army, and then Gold Knights are UCF. Did they drop Golden?
I don't know. I'm looking at the little box score right now on ESPN, and it does. It says just UCF Knights. So I don't know.
Did they drop Golden Knights?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. No, well, do some research. We'll have to get on that one.
Okay. Now you have me completely.
I totally.
2007, they dropped Golden Knights.
Is that right? That long ago?
I thought they just didn't. I thought it was just more of like an efficiency thing. They just said Knights.
Wow.
That's lame.
Well, I learned something today.
Do you know what they were in 1969? The Citronauts.
Oh, I have heard of that before. Yeah. I remember seeing that. They talked about it on one of their broadcasts.
All right. Well, there you go. Down memory lane. This is tough because now he's staying. He's interviewed. We know he was close to leaving. He stays. I don't know. Like, USF should have beaten UCF last week, and we talked about that crazy end zone grab late. John Reese Plumlee's banged up, and that was a big reason why UCF won the previous time. And what's the spread here, Matt Green?
Oh, the spread in this one is Tulane is favored by 3.
Give me Tulane to win and cover. I don't think lightning strikes twice here, and they get the big win at home.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to agree with you again, sir.
I thought you'd go UCF here. I'm surprised.
I didn't go with the mean green, so I'm going to have to go with the green wave. And I think they're just too good of a team to lose to the same team twice. So give me the green wave to win and cover as well. And then our last game of our pick'em for the season. In the Mountain West Conference title game, we got the Boise State Broncos at home on the Smurf turf against the Fresno State Bulldogs. And Boise State is an 8.5 point favorite. 3.5 point favorite in this game. How do you see it going?
Matt Green. Last one, our last pick of our regular season pick'em. Boise undefeated in the Mountain West this year. Really turned around once they fired their OC. Hank Bachmeier left the program in the year. It could have gone awry. Andy Avalos gets things on track with Dirk Cutter, old Atlanta friend. Shout out to Dirk Cutter, who's coached at literally everywhere in this country, both the NFL and college level. Boise pounded them in the first matchup, beating them by 20, I want to say. And I don't see it. This Fresno team's not great. Not the same Fresno team of years past, but I love these two teams. I really do. Fresno and Boise were two of my faves growing up, and this is it's a good one. But I think they're rocking and rolling. Boise State finishes strong here and stays perfect. It's at home, blue turf. Give me the Broncos to win and cover.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you again. When these teams played earlier this year, Boise State won 40-20 at Boise State as well.
Wait, hold on, Matt Green. I'm going to give you an opportunity here. Because how many have we disagreed on to this point?
Okay, let me see here. So we disagreed on Pac-12, just overall, because against the spread doesn't necessarily matter in terms of this. So we disagreed on the Pac-12. We disagreed on the Big Ten. We disagreed on the ACC. We disagreed on whatever conference, North Texas and UTSA. Is that Conference USA?
Yeah, that's Conference USA. Show some respect, sir.
That's
before
5.
they moved to the AAC, by the way.
Toledo and Ohio, that's 6 in the MAC.
Have we really disagreed on 6?
Man. And then we both had Boise State, Tulane, and Troy.
So this week you could be in front. I was going to say, I want to make sure, because if we were tied at the same number of picks, like disagree, where I was like, you should just go Fresno just to like, hey.
How dare you, sir? I go with my gut and nothing else.
I was giving you an opportunity where if like we pick the same amount where you're like, hey, just for betting's sake, it might be more of an opportunity for you to go Fresno.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm glad how many we disagreed with, because I was a little surprised. I thought you might go hot take and pick Utah. But I was not expecting the Purdue pick. That's a real wild card. I think that if you lose this lead, I think the Purdue Michigan pick might be the one that you're kicking yourself for. But you're on the record now. You can't change that.
I could still lose the Purdue one and still win.
No, you could.
Because we have what? You said 6 this week?
Yeah, there's a bunch. We'll see if your knowledge of the group of 5, if maybe that's what ultimately wins this for you.
This is huge. I have way more of a rooting interest in all these games now, where I'm just like the team chase here down the stretch, just adamantly just yelling at the TV, and my wife walking in. Why are you yelling at this MAC title game? Is that and I'm just yelling about, come on Rockets, let's go. It's gonna be me. It's gonna be real sicko behavior.
Of course, and that's what makes all these pick 'em. That's what makes them all interesting. And yeah, like I told you, Tori won the season. Long pick 'em in our group, which is just insane. Just kudos to her. I feel like we were 10 weeks in before she really understood what the spread was. So don't know how she got it done, but T and C are her 2 first initials. So she's picking TCU every week. That really worked out well for her this year. But yeah, so she is also, since she beat me, obviously, she beat everyone on the season. She's also going to be filling out her pick'em again this week for the conference championship, and so we'll have a little friendly head-to-head wager between me and her. So we'll see what her conference, if she can keep this hot hand going in the conference championship week.
We shall see, Matt Green. Well, that's all I've got, my friend. Anything else you'd like to plug or mention before we wrap up here? To wrap up and put a bow on the regular season, another year in the books, Matt Green. It's kind of wild. Time flies. I cannot believe this is it for the regular season.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. I'm hoping SEC championship game tickets maybe they continue to plummet. I've heard things that LSU fans may have not have sold their allotted tickets for this game. So
are you going?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many opportunities you really have to go to the SEC championship for an affordable price, and so also expecting your team to win. So never been to the SEC championship before, so I'm looking at the tickets. I'm keeping an eye out.
Interesting. Okay, I like it. Matt Green, thank you as always, my friend. Thank you for another fun season of podcasting. Don't worry, folks. This is not it. We will have bowl coverage, playoff coverage, all that stuff still to come in the weeks to come. Coaches movement, transfer portal movement, all kinds of stuff to talk about in the weeks to come. But this will do it.
Sorry to cut you off. Like on top of all this, we got like signing day in like 2 weeks. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
But that is the college football calendar that needs to be fixed. Put it Matt Green in charge. CFB czars, you cowards. For that guy down there in Tequila, Georgia, for myself up here in Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ, that is all we've got this evening, and we will talk to y'all very soon.
Yes, sir.